People are explorers, and that's the reason we started to search for different ways of transportation a long time ago. A big part of it are cars, and today we will talk about the history of the electric car. The history began in the 18th century, when different developers from different countries started to work on battery-powered vehicles. From Hungary, Netherlands, US, Germany, France, and whatnot, they created some of the first ones in the 18th century. But it wasn't until the year of 1890, when William Morrison created the first commercially successful electric car, which you can see on the picture. It was a 6-passenger, 4-horsepower vehicle able to reach speeds up to 14 kilometers an hour. It wasn't the sexiest car ever, obviously, but it sure helped spark interest in electric mobility. Don't think that all electric cars from that time were slow like that. I was very amazed to learn that the first car ever built by the famous German engineer Ferdinand Porsche was an electric one. It was called the Porsche P1. It could reach top speed of 35 kilometers an hour, and it was really a work of art. 35 kilometers an hour, that's pretty impressive, right? Well, not for this guy. This is a Belgian car racer, Camille Genetzi. He decided he's gonna set the world land speed record. Therefore, he built a bullet-shaped vehicle, electric powered, with which he drove more than 105 kilometers an hour. And that, for that time, was an astonishing achievement. As you can see from the driver's position, he was really courageous, or lacked judgment. Decide for yourself. However, these things helped start people to be interested in electric mobility. In the year 1900, for example, in New York City, 1/3 of all cars were electric. Because gasoline cars at that time had some issues. They had to be hand-cranked, they were noisy, they were smoky, they were loud, and they were shaking all the time. They weren't all that comfortable. On the other hand, electric cars were silent, smooth, driving them was really elegant, and therefore they were more popular amongst women. But unfortunately, changes were on the horizon, and so was the extinction of the first generation of electric vehicles. What led to that? Well, the most important 3 things were: the first one was Henry Ford. With his introduction of the Model T in 1908, he delivered a really cheap car. The Ford Model T sold for about 1/3 of the price of a similar electric-powered vehicle, and therefore it was a great commercial success. In fact, up to this day, it's one of the top 10 most sold cars in history because they sold more than 15 million Model Ts. The second reason was Charles Kettering and his invention of the electric starter. This invention eliminated the need for the hand crank, and therefore gasoline-powered cars were made a lot more useful. Ironically, the electric motor helped killing the electric car. And the third reason was infrastructure. By 1920, a lot of roads were built and cities were connected. The gasoline stations started popping up everywhere, and that enabled long-distance gasoline traveling a reality. Unfortunately, electric cars of that time had limited range and were in that regard useless. In the 70s, between 1935, where almost no electric cars were left on the road, until 1970s, there was no development because gas was cheap, cars were pretty affordable, and that led to the years of internal combustion engine. In the 70s, prices of gas began to rise again, which caused a couple of cars to be developed, but they were slow, had limited range, and they were a bit aesthetically challenged, as you can see. Again, not much happened until 1990s, when we witnessed the world's most controversial story in EV history. Some state regulators and lawmakers started to influence the process, and some laws were issued which demanded car manufacturing companies to produce a certain percentage of zero-emissions vehicles. Therefore, General Motors introduced their electric EV1 to the market in 1996. It was a great car with swift acceleration, 130 kilometers an hour of top speed, 130 kilometers of range, and not just regular people, but also Hollywood celebrities fell in love with the car. Mel Gibson, Danny DeVito, Tom Hanks, they did not, I want to say they owned the car and loved it, but General Motors did not sell their car. They only leased the car. You could only rent it. And then, big car manufacturers started to influence the regulators, the lawmakers, and succeeded. So, in year 2000, the Zero Emissions Act was abolished, and General Motors repossessed all of their EV1s and crushed most of them. The remaining few were sent to different museums and tech schools as an example of electric car, but otherwise, with that, it seemed as though the electric car will never see a bright future. Always, it started and it stops, it started and it stops. This was the third time in history when this happened. But regardless of that fact, one man decided to change the face of the history forever. With a dream of electric mobility, he founded a car manufacturing company in 2003. With it, he created a trend so powerful, so strong, and so widely spread that now car manufacturing companies with more than 100 years of experience are trying their best to catch up. This man is beating them at their own game. Who am I talking about? Which is the company? I will reveal to you in my next speech, so stay tuned. Thank you.